Hi folks, Puffin here with your Antifa News Briefa for April 23rd, 2022. Tomorrow is the last day of the French election, and no surprise to me, our media here and the BBC, NPR radio that I listen to for news have been pumping up the Nazi Marie Le Pen and don't tell you a whole lot about Macron. They'll let you know his name, Macron, which is better than they did in the Brazil elections 6 years ago, but they won't cover Macron at all. And they don't have any campaigning in France, but today, and I guess all today, to give people time to reflect without influence. But of course, people are trying to influence all the time. You hear about it on BBC radio, which you can pick up in France, or on online media, on social media and stuff. So people are going to be talking about this. So there's going to be influences. I wanted to put my influence in that hopefully Macron will win and defeat Le Pen and Putin. Because what does Le Pen stand for? Putin, everything Putin wants. So that's pretty much it. And banning headscarves. If I can just focus in on that for a second, that's all I hear about. The only issue I hear about is she wants to ban Muslim headscarves in public in France. What is that other than racism? You could say it's some type of Christian bigotry, although that shouldn't exist anyway. That's just been an excuse for wars for centuries. Christianity, as far as I know, is pretty much dying out in France. So it's not Christian bigotry, it's just racism. It's just we have something against this other culture. If the headscarf was not associated with Islam, if the headscarf was just a fashion statement, it would seem equally, or in a different way, ridiculous to be banning it, especially for France. It shows you're a traitor to France if you have a particular issue that gets your panties in a wad about someone's headscarf, about fashion. You're against fashion, and you're in France. You don't represent France. You don't represent humanity. You only represent Putin. Now, I don't know how that hasn't become more of an issue. I know that Macron has pointed out that she receives funding from Putin and supports Putin. And then her only defense to that has been, oh, wait, I made a tweet where I said Ukraine shouldn't ally with Putin or the West. Well, that's all Putin wants from plenty of his Western puppets, is to say that Ukraine shouldn't ally with the West. That's, his goal for going to war, or one of his stated goals for going to war in the first place. So you're pushing Putin propaganda no matter what. And unfortunately, I want Macron to win, of course, because I don't want a Nazi to take over France. I have to say, France, don't surrender again to Nazi Le Pen. Too many of you have already surrendered in your minds to this ideology that Putin has pushed on you, and Putin's a Nazi. So Macron was hesitant to call Putin's war in Ukraine a genocide. That's not enough to not vote for him, but it's like, why are you doing that? Because you're afraid of looking like you would oppose Putin, and you want to appeal to the Putin puppets who like Le Pen to steal some of it. It doesn't work. It's like Biden not arresting Trump. And that reminds me, I have no room to talk. As an American, I'm trying to let you know, France, don't surrender to Nazi ideology, because too many of us in America have surrendered to Nazi ideology. We become Trump Putineers, betrayed America, betrayed humanity. When you think about it, Putin, Daddy Vladdy, their puppet master, betrayed Russia. Hitler killed millions of Russian people in World War II. And Putin has already killed thousands of Russian people, and thousands of Ukrainian people as well, innocent civilians. But Putin is betraying what all those people died for by reviving Nazi ideology and Nazi tactics and not being a complete Nazi. And we know Putin's a complete Nazi because all his puppets are complete Nazis. Trump, Marie Le Pen, Bolsonaro, Modi in India, Netanyahu in Israel, they're all complete Nazis. And it doesn't invalidate them. Granted, there probably are Nazis in Ukraine. That's not why Putin is going to war there. He probably put them there or helped fund them to begin with. But yeah, there are probably Nazis in Ukraine, just like there's neo-Nazis in America. They've been here, but Putin and Facebook and the whole network, Fox Network, Rupert Murdoch, all those folks, weaponized the Nazism to attack our governments. We saw it in January 6th in America and in everything they've ever done before and after that. And we haven't stopped it, which is almost just as bad. Now, we have media companies, which they call the liberal media, but NPR, which is presumed to be liberal, It's not even centrist, it's gone more fascist, along with the BBC. I see my videos titled about the BBC racism, because BBC, just like NPR, will talk about Macron, or NPR won't even mention Macron, but BBC will mention Macron as a setup for a 5-minute piece on LaPenn. A 5-minute expose, free campaign stuff for LaPenn, and they'll only barely mention Macron to set it up. NPR won't even mention Macron. They won't say anything about his policies or anything to give him any support, but they'll do a 5-minute piece on Marie Le Pen. This disgusts me, and you've heard me talk about it plenty of times on my channel. If you see my channel, if you scroll real far, because I heard BBC and NPR do this with Bolsonaro for the year before the Brazilian election. Every night they would talk about Bolsonaro and how popular he was. They never even mentioned the name of his competitor. So if I wanted to go online and try to support somebody, as people do in this world, support candidates in other countries, and try to encourage people to not be fascist, not be taken in by Putin and Nazism, I didn't even know the name of his opponent. I could have looked it up. But my point is, they never reported it. They never mentioned it. They'd always talk and give a 5-minute piece on Bolsonaro. And then 3 days before the election, they admit, or the news story is that Facebook and Twitter have removed 150,000 accounts that were pumping up Bolsonaro. So all the thing that BBC bought into or helped manufacture by reporting on his popularity on Facebook from bots and fake accounts that Facebook and Twitter made turns into his actual presidency. Now, thankfully, in Brazil, they at least are going to try him for genocide and crimes against humanity and arrest him and all this stuff. Hopefully, the Senate at least voted to do that. Let's see how far they can get. We haven't managed to arrest Trump in America, but Putin's propaganda actually worked more on Americans than it did even in Brazil. Even in Brazil, maybe only 10% of the people refused the vaccine because they've been influenced by Putin propaganda. And everything Bolsonaro and Trump said about it was exactly the same, to try to spread the Trump virus genocide as far as they could. Well, in America, it was like 30%. The only country with a higher percentage, Russia, with 40%. Because Putin is running that, and it took on more in America, because you can't underestimate the stupidity of Americans. So I can't stand NPR and BBC doing this. Of course, it's sensationalist to talk about Le Pen or Bolsonaro or Trump. Of course, it's sensationalist to talk about them. But you're talking about them as if everybody should know that you don't vote for these people. Everybody should know better. Everybody should know that they're Nazis. You might as well just tell everybody that they're Nazis. Point out the way that they've proven that they're Nazis every single turn of events, and they've proven that they do this for Putin. Point that stuff out to people. Help people out. You're the media. You're the news. You're supposed to help educate the population. And if all you do is report on the sensationalism of Le Pen, I mean, the BBC's piece last night had even a part where they talked to a leftist. They talked to a college student who was part of a far left organization. But all they had that person say was a quote that because students were poor or something, they, were desperate, and some turned to the far right. She didn't even say some foolishly turned to the far right. She didn't even work any criticism in there. How is that a real leftist? And they ended the report by saying, years ago, it would have been unheard of for a person in France to be speaking openly in a cafe about far right political ideals. But here we are, and no one seems to be batting an eye. Well, and not only is no one batting an eye at your interviewee telling you these things, repeating these mistaken propaganda racism points from Putin and Le Pen, yeah, no one's standing up to challenge or saying that, because she's talking to the BBC reporter. You're legitimizing it yourselves every minute that you do this. And it shows how this has infested our institutions. And people are, trying to compromise with or kowtow to a Trump-Putineer Nazi mentality. No, there's no compromise with that. You call it out, you root it out, you exterminate it. We don't need any of that ideology anymore whatsoever. And all it is Putin trying to hold on to oil. And when you think about, why does Putin want to spread a genocide that kills people? Well, because it kills, certain people more than others, for one, so it's racism and everything else. But also because he doesn't care how many people get killed or who gets killed. It's like the Herman Cain effect. You don't care who gets it, as long as there's less people to oppose your evil oil regime. Putin knows that the future is only green energy, and he gets cut out of it with his oil regime. Unless he can make some type of dystopian future like you've seen in movies where he just runs everything and everybody's a slave. We don't actually want that. We're not going to let it happen. But we need to root it out everywhere, including at the BBC and NPR, when they won't report on anything other than Trump-Putineer Marie Le Pen puppets. So go Macron, good luck France, please help defeat the Nazis, don't surrender to them again by voting for Le Pen. Please re-elect Macron and help fight these Nazis everywhere. You got Orban in Hungary, you got Trump in America still running around, still influencing things, and his surrogates, DeSantis and stuff, making news all the time, hurting people's lives all the time, just to further a Putin agenda. And we've got Biden and Merrick Garland, people on our side who are supposed to be protecting us, not doing their jobs, which is halfway or just as guilty when it gets right down to it. We've got to stop the Trump Putineers and this terrible Nazi ideology from spreading and root it out of our media too. Thanks for watching and sharing. Love you forever. Save Ukraine, save France, save humanity, save USA, save Brazil, save us all, save Russia from Putin. It's Putin behind it all. If you have any questions about that, just look into what they say and do. Like I said, Marie Le Pen could only say, oh, I said Ukraine should be free from everyone. That's all Putin wanted you to say. So some of them can say it more forcefully than others, but all Trump Putineers will only ever say what Putin tells them to say. And you can trace it back and see it that way, and therefore see how wrong it all is. Thanks for watching and sharing. See you soon.